You're going to need 3 highlighters, 3 different colors, and you can kind of share amongst each other and maybe stick them all in the middle and grab as you go whatever color you decided to use. But there's an article at your table that Rhonda brought around. They're probably colored. There was one that's white. And what I would like you to do, and the cool thing about this is again kind of 2-layered. Number 1, it's really important that we give kids time to read. And that's why with the Chin article, I want you to read the article. With these articles, I want you to read the articles. And they're really good articles that I think get at a lot of things, misconceptions about Common Core, ways we can teach, get into teaching Common Core. But they also do something really interesting, and you're going to notice this very quickly. What I would like you to do is pick a highlighter for narrative, a highlighter for argument, and a highlighter for informational. And then I want you to go through your article, and I want you to highlight when the author is telling a story, real or imagined. You're going to give it that narrative color. When they're crafting an argument, your argument color. And when they're conveying information or explaining. So highlight those, and you're going to find something really interesting as you go through that process. Same article as you. Most tables, some of you have 2 different articles. That's fine. They're color-coded, so as long as you have the same color, you're good. What I would like you to do with your group is look at your highlighting. Are you in agreement? Is it the same? Okay. How would you classify the piece overall? Which one of those 3 terms would you give it? And then just have a little bit of discussion about what you noticed and why it's significant and what implications that might have for our instruction. Okay. So take a few minutes. Just start at the beginning and work your way through and see where you're similar, where you're different on that highlighting. Getting close to lunchtime, we're going to get up and move around a little bit and do what we call a backyard barbecue. So what I would like you to do is find 2 other people that have different colored articles from yours and talk about the conversation that you had at your table and the content of your article. So you got to get up, you got to find somebody with a different colored article, talk to them, then find someone else with a different colored article, talk to them, and then you can go back to your seat. So make sure you talk to 2 other colors about what their conversation was at the table, how the highlighting went. So, how did that go?
Really well.
Really well? How similar were you in your highlighting? Some overlap?
We would have color coordinated before we started.
That's one thing I wanted to know.
That's a great idea.
Write that in your instructions.
The same colors. Yeah, we had, like, we knew what colors we had to work with because we were just, everybody's throwing them into the mix. That's a great idea, definitely.
Then you can see the pattern.
Visually,
you can just look at it.
Paragraph.
Yeah.
Well, and this, does anybody do step up to writing? This reminds me a lot of step up to writing with topic sentence is green. Then you have your examples. And I kept saying, oh, there's the evidence. Go find my evidence and highlight it. So.
Have you ever watched kids do research? This is how they do it. They print it and then they highlight it. And half the time, everything. I don't think they realize what they're highlighting and why. So this is a really focused, like you need to pick a color for this, for this, for this. So it's another strategy that you can use as well. What implications does this have for our teaching? Cut right to the big question.
You can't teach it in isolation. It doesn't appear authentic in isolation. If you're going to do it in writing, it's going to be a little bit of less. You can't containerize this trimester. We're emphasizing narrative. The next trimester, you just can't do it. It doesn't work.
It's hard.
I know for the younger grades, there's less build up of the exploring of where it's just, guess what, we're going to write, and now you're on these really big topics. I guess it's good and bad, but for the little kids that don't know what a sentence is at first coming in, especially in kindergarten at first, I think we're kind of jumping some developmental exploration to get to these really big step-by-step writing processes. It can be a little stressful for the teacher and for these little kids if you're pushing them beyond what they're expecting.
Do you think you have to exclude that though? The steps?
No, but there's less time in the day when when you're combining all of this, especially when you have half-day kindergarten, they may not getting all of that before they come to first. So,
Yes.
I had a question. When you say, what does this, how does this, what was your question?
What implications does this have for our kids?
Yeah, does this, specifically, what do you mean?
Oh, well,
What is this?
the highlighting, the defining the 3 different text types, the content of the articles that you read, it's a big question.
Yeah.
To me, as with honors kids, it creates a framework of I can give them a bunch of different things and they like know what they need to do. Like I don't have to go back and reteach it. This is something I would do at the beginning of the year, you know, with kind of a general text, and then once they're given primary documents or secondary sources, then they can go in and use this technique further on.
To apply to others.
Yeah.
Yes. I was thinking, just even as we read different articles in class, to have the kids determine what's the overall purpose, and so just keep addressing that so that they're more comfortable when you're asking them to do that.
Did you have a hard time doing that overall? Classifying it overall?
Well, we disagreed though, and so I think it's kind of like poetry. Is there a right answer or not? And so when you talk about AP kids, I can see that going on all day. I disagree that we had informational article versus an argumentative article. And so that's the thing that I think is somewhat tricky. If you really are trying to get them to find, you know, this was an argumentative article and this is why you should have done it, or this was strictly an informational. You see what I'm saying? Your purpose, you go back to your purpose of what you're doing it, but you can't leave the kids in limbo. Because if we sit there and do this and then never know whether there was a right or wrong answer, or if it was just to explore blended text types, it won't have the same effectiveness, I don't think.
Well, and essentially, you're making an argument about which kind it is.
Well, exactly. Like we can say it's blended, but here's where I think it's an argument, and here's where I don't think it's an argument, and then you go back to your definition, and you say, here's how I can defend it. Those are rich conversations. But in the end, do you really care? Do you care?
No.
And so that's what I think the kids need to know. In the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is
The conversation that got you there.
Exactly. Exactly. But they need to know that.
And thinking of, yeah, they do. And thinking about how that influences the way they write themselves.
Exactly.
I can use a story to make an argument. And then I'm going to need to give them information so that they can come to the same conclusion that I've come to.
Or do they want to be more clear that this is an argument, and so to clearly state it?
But I think coming back to purpose and task and audience is a really important way to have them think through that process.